Blessed Lenten season, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Strauss's Salome with conductor Keri-Lynn Wilson, which I saw at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. This marks the fourth time I saw Klaus Guth's production of Strauss's Salome at the Deutsche Oper Berlin because I wanted to see, hear, and witness Olesya Golovneva perform the role of Salome. It's been quite a trip witnessing Olesya Golovneva's career transition from her initial beginnings as a coloratura soprano, basically straddling between lyric coloratura and dramatic coloratura, to heading to more full lyric soprano roles, and eventually having a go at spinto soprano / dramatic soprano roles. It almost felt like yesterday when I saw her perform the roles of Valentine de Saint-Prix from Les Huguenots and Silvana from La Fiamma, thus marking a significant growth in her career, and I was quite interested to see how she was going to fare as Salome. The short answer is she did not disappoint whatsoever. In fact, she managed to exceed so well in this role in her own special way that I was thoroughly impressed with how much magnificent vocal acting she managed to produce, as well as her overall flair for drama. Her Salome is sort of lyrical in nature. Think of a combination of Maria Chabotari, Luba Village, Teresa Stratas, as well as Felicia Weathers, and lest I forget about Lisa de la Casa. This is also pretty much in evidence when it comes to Lisa de la Casa's lyricism, as well as Luba Village's stage and musical, as well as overall vocal acting. She conquered the role with abundant femininity and a whole lot of class, regality, and gorgeousness that I could barely take my eyes off of her. She knew how to take advantage of Salome's music as well as her drama so involvingly that I was practically eating out of the palms of her hands. She knew how to use her flair for drama as well as her overall engagement with the character to make her all the more involving as well as engaging, and even to the point where I was thoroughly astounded with the results of what Olesya Golovneva had to produce. This was also evident with how she used her chest tones to bring out the more controversial and the more unhinged and raw sides of Salome, thus solidifying herself as one of the finest vocal actresses I have ever witnessed as Salome. Sure, when it comes to my personal tastes with Salome, I've always preferred either Wagnerian soprano or even that of a Falcon soprano tackling Salome. Voices such as Ole Fremstad, Rose Pauli, Marjorie Lawrence, Goethe Ljungberg, Walburga Wegner, Christel Goltz, Astrid Varnay, Birgit Nilsson, Liselotte Enk, Helga Pilarczyk, Jean Rode, Ursula Schröder-Feinen, Gwyneth Jones, Hildegard Behrens, and my personal favorite Salome of all time, even though she's not everybody's favorite, Grace Bumbry, definitely had those voices that also exuded a lot of power, might, and most importantly, great coordinated chest tones, and even chest tones for the low notes. But when it comes to my personal favorite Salomes of all time, I could never ever go wrong with Marjorie Lawrence, Walburga Wegner, Christel Goltz, Astrid Varnay, Birgit Nilsson, Jean Rode, Ursula Schröder-Feinen, Gwyneth Jones, Hildegard Behrens, and Grace Bumbry, because of their wonderful technical prowess as well as close attention to not only the music and text, but also the finer details of Salome. Furthermore, Olesya Golovneva's tackling of Salome also brings into mind Anya Silia's way of tackling the role with not only beauty as well as charisma, but also credibility. Sure, Anya Silia's voice was not totally suitable for all of these bigger as well as more dramatic sounding roles like Brunhilde, Elektra, or even the Fidelio Leonora or Isolde, but her involvement as a singing actress was definitely something that should be witnessed, especially for everybody who saw her live on stage. And even though Olesya Golovneva's approach to Salome is a little bit more lyrical in nature, she still was backed up by that creamy tone that she was renowned for, as well as appreciated for, as well as her equally fantastic musicianship that remained unparalleled, and her overall technical prowess was also as sterling as ever. Despite Olesya Golovneva's voice not being the chestiest or the steeliest, or a voice that feels like you've been hit by a Semite or a freight train or even huge ocean waves a la Birgit Nilsson or Gwyneth Jones, I could still give Olesya Golovneva loads of kudos for her hard work, dedication, and her sheer discipline as a singing actress who made the role of Salome her own and who also imbued her with abundant credibility, both vocally and theatrically. Stephanie Wake Edwards was wonderfully plush, gorgeous, and exceptionally musical as the page of Herodias, using her chesty mezzo-soprano voice to her advantage, especially to give this role a lot of vibrance, urgency, and life. And Evelyn Herlitzius, who was also a former Salome, much like Astrid Varnay, Leonie Rezenek, and Gwyneth Jones, has also tackled the role of Herodias with a great deal of theatrical flair, a whole lot of charisma, as well as extremely engaging involvement with this particular queen. Sure, she has her neuroses as well as her anguish and even her moments of sheer psychosis. But knowing Evelyn Herlitzius, especially when it comes to her experiences with both Salome and Herodias, she never forgot that this particular character is a queen first and foremost. What she was able to do with Herodias was imbue her with sufficient nobility, snark, as well as a whole lot of acidity to make this role quite multidimensional and quite fun to watch, even as she comforts Salome when she's constantly trying to play nice with the 5 Jews and the 2 Nazarenes, to the point where she kind of feels like it's a bit too much for her, especially with them just going on and on and on about the possibility of the prophet Elias coming back to life, which might be debunked or not, but at least with Evelyn Herlitzius as Herodias, she was still an involving singing actress who thoroughly understood the psyches of both mother and daughter and used her talents as a singing actress to her greatest advantage. Sure, she may not be the chestiest or the darkest sounding or the most incisive sounding singer for Herodias, such as when I think about voices like Georgina von Milinkovic or Ira Malaniuk, or my personal favorite Herodias of all time, Astrid Varnay. She still definitely had a go at this role, all guns blazing, and even though she kind of lacked a little bit more of that additional darkness, chestiness, and overall roundness that I've always appreciated in singers such as Regina Resnick, as well as Ruth Hesse, and lest I forget about Gertrude Jan, just to name a few of my personal favorite Herodias's, I could still give credit to Evelyn Herlitzius for such an engaging performance as this queen, and she was able to just sing up a storm bottom to top, even though her voice may not be to everybody's cup of tea. Regardless, Evelyn Herlitzius continued to exude a whole lot of chutzpah, self-confidence, and self-assurance as this queen, and did so with acidity as well as exceptional brilliance. Andrew Harris and Tobias Kira were exceptionally resonant, manly, virile, strong, and handsome as the two soldiers, all thanks to their trademark basso profondo voices just being so exceptional to listen to, as if though I were in the presence of two emperors. Jordan Shanahan's Johanna actually grew in great virility, strength, and an overall exceptional incision that made his voice all the more present, as well as grew in a lot more roundness, richness, and depth, to the point where I was thoroughly amazed with how much he has grown as an overall fine and exceptional Heldenbariton / dramatic baritone, thus making his vocal growth all the more fully realized. And I certainly hope that he continues to receive a lot more inspiration from the great Johanna-ans, including the likes of Hans Hotte, Ferdinand Franz, and Thomas Stewart, as well as many of the great Heldenbaritons who sang this prophet, and do so with a whole lot of open-mindedness as well as enlightenment, so that his voice can continue to grow in the best way possible. Thomas Blondel continues to be a rather acquired taste as Herodes, even though this time he managed to sing this role a little bit better. But if you know me, I've always preferred it when a true Heldentenor tackles this role, especially when it comes to my personal favorite Herodeses of all time, Max Lorenz, Setz Vanholm, Hans Beurer, Ramon Vinay, and Richard Lewis, although he was more of a spinto tenor. But when it comes to the champion of all Herodeses, I would definitely have to give it to Hans Beurer because of his exceptional musicianship, as well as his huge torrential-like voice that could cover an orchestra so exceptionally, as well as just embody this role with abundant virility, great manliness, and overall regalness, to the point where he really does play and sing Herodes as a king, even though he's not a particularly great king. But at least with Thomas Blondel, he continues to inhabit this role with neuroses, nervousness, as well as a great deal of vocal acting that also can be kind of hammy at times, but at least he was still a thoroughly dedicated artist who totally understood that Herodes's neuroses comes from a place of fear, anguish, and a whole lot of inner loss, considering his origins as the son of a camel driver and not one of royalty. At least Thomas Blondel was absolutely involving as a singing actor, and I still salute him for what he was able to accomplish as this role, although vocally he still left a lot to be desired as Herodes, and his natural lyric tenor voice does not suit the part by any stretch of the imagination. At least he was still an involving vocal actor. Kieran Carell does have sufficient youth as well as a great growth in musicianship as Narabot. I can never fault him for what he was able to accomplish as the captain of the guard. I have to salute him for tackling the role of Narabot with all guns blazing, as well as a great deal of involvement, as well as making the best out of this particular character. Although, if you know me, I've always preferred beefier, manlier, and stronger voices as narrabot, especially when it comes to the likes of Hans Hopf, Brian Sullivan, and my personal favorite of all time, James King, who recorded narrabot alongside Montserrat Caballé as Salome. At least when it comes to Kieran Carell, he was still an elegantly toned narrabot who, although still kind of has problems with nasality, he was still a fine musician and he was still able to sing with sufficient nuance, class, and elegance, thus providing narrabot with a gentlemanly and youthful quality that made his performance of this role really fine all the way through. I can't really complain too much about it because Kieran Carell is a fine gentleman on stage, especially when he brought in sufficient nuances to narrabot and also made the best out of this otherwise thankless character. Gerard Ferreras was a vocally resonant and thoroughly virile fifth Jew. Joel Allison was also just as virile, manly, and resonant as the first Nazarene. Stephen Marsh's round, rich, and handsome baritone voice used a lot of wonderful nuances and was of great service to the Cappadocian. And the exceptional vocal work found in Burkhard Ulrich, Jörg Schürner, Thomas Chelufo, and Chance-Jonas O'Toole as the other four Jews managed to be of amazing caliber as well as outstanding collaboration, especially when they put their wonderful light lyric / character tenor voices to amazing use. And I also have to give a lot of kudos to Chance-Jonas O'Toole for making the best out of the Slaves one line. So these four tenors managed to do some exceptional vocal work as the four Jews, especially when it comes to Burkhard Ulrich's nuances, Jörg Schürner's exceptional musicianship, Thomas Chelufo's wonderful stability and overall great discipline as a singing actor, and Chance-Jonas O'Toole also providing some youthful nuances to these four Jews. So overall, the singing was absolutely wonderful all the way through. I have to give my hat off to Olesya Golovneva as Salome for imbuing this role with a great deal of femininity, abundant class, and exceptional musicianship. She may not be as meaty as, let's say, Birgit Nilsson or steely as Leonie Rizanek, as vocally raw and powerful as Gwyneth Jones, or the total complete package that was Hildegard Behrens, unless they forget about Smokey and Chesty, just like Jean Rode and Grace Bumbry. But Olesya Golovneva was truly in a class of her own, embodying Salome with a great deal of womanly charms as well as some girlishness that was found in her creamy, crystalline, and gorgeous full lyric soprano voice that managed to shine so well and that also had a bit of a spinto edge to it these days. Sure, I do continue to show a lot of concern for her, especially now that she's tackling Turandot and Salome as well as Silvana, but Olesya Golovneva's musicianship as well as her flair for drama managed to make her thoroughly strong as a performer, and I can only wish her all the best as well as hope that she remains conscientious with her naturally plush instrument and not abuse it too much. At least with her efforts as Salome, I could still salute her with all my heart, mind, and soul, especially when she was backed up by some really fine performers such as Stephanie Wake Edwards, Evelyn Herlitzius, Thomas Blondell, Kieran Carell, and Jordan Shanahan, just to name a few of the astounding singers who participated in this production of Salome. And when it comes to all the other singers, from Chance-Jonas O'Toole to Stephen Marsh, everybody did their absolute best, and they were all able to contribute so handsomely to the entire product. I also have to give major props to Nadia Gvinsky, Noemi Lipperheide, Lydia Martinelli, Dora Mende, Ekaterina Rastorgueva, and Mina Vishnat for doing absolutely fine jobs as the young Salomes, as well as Alexander Fenn, Nikos Fragko, Uri Burga, Derek Amanatidis, and Abel Navarro for their exceptional works as the dancers and the puppet masters. All the performers managed to do exceptionally well in their respective roles. The conducting done by Keri-Lynn Wilson was absolutely amazing. She knew fully well that she was going to tackle such an exciting as well as thrilling experience and banger such as Salome, and she managed to lead up and whip up that orchestra into great shape. She knew when she had to go raw in certain moments. She knew when she had to use some sinuousness and not just use one moment or just one tone for the orchestra. She was fully aware of what she could do in terms of leading that orchestra with nuance, discipline, and a whole lot of involvement. When there were loud moments, she went all out. When there were soft and subtle moments, she made sure that there were subtleties. She was conscientious of everything that she did, especially when it came to ensuring that the orchestra was in great shape. And what more can you expect about the orchestra of the Deutsche Oper Berlin, as well as the chorus? They were all absolutely magnificent from beginning to end. Olesya Golovneva certainly struck a fine impression on me as Salome. Her approach to this role is a little bit more lyrical as opposed to the more dramatic attempts made by the likes of Astrid Varnay, Birgit Nilsson, Marjorie Lawrence, Leonie Rezanek, Grace Bumbry, Ursula Schröder-Feinen, Gwyneth Jones, and Hildegard Behrens, as well as Rose Pauli and Ole Fremstad. But regardless of my personal tastes when it comes to my personal favorite voice for Salome, I could still give a whole lot of credit and kudos to Olesya Golovneva for her fine musicianship, as well as her exceptional flair for drama in terms of embodying the role of Salome. She may not have that ocean-like tone that has defined the likes of Birgit Nilsson and Leonie Rezanek. And while she may not be uber chesty like Grace Bumbry or Jeanne Rode, at least she was able to be in a class of her own with a lot of great technical prowess and her overall flair for drama that remained totally unparalleled. And for those of you who caught this performance of Strauss's Salome at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, what did you think of it? Did you feel that Olesya Golovneva managed to be on her own class as Salome, especially when she exceeded this role so well? Did you also feel that Olesya Golovneva was a fine Salome, especially when she embodied this role with what she felt was right for the character? Was there a particularly favorite moment that you had with her as Salome? Did you also feel that there was another singer who stole her thunder? Or did you feel that Olesya Golovneva did not live up to the role of Salome whatsoever? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Strauss's Salome at the Deutsche Oper Berlin starring Olesya Golovneva as Salome. Tune in tomorrow for my review of Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Staatsoper unter den Linden starring Maria Agresta as Cho-Cho-san. So until then, blessed Lenten season, everybody.